Good evening, it's 4:30 p.m. and I now call to order the Grand Island Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the November 14, 2024 meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Grand Island Daily Independent, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance to the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it into us so that you may be recognized during the request to address the board part of our meeting. If you have not already completed the form, please see the staff person outside the entrance to this room. Public comment is welcome. We do ask that no signs be brought into the boardroom. Mrs. Dibbert, would you please call the roll?
Mr. McFarland.
Present.
Mr. Hawley. Here. Mr. Garcia Mendez. Present. Mrs. Albers. Here. Mr. Sykes. Here. Mr. Barsonis. Yes. Ms. Juergens has given prior notice, and so she will not be attending. Mrs. Wilson. Here. Mr. Helinski.
Here.
Okay. The first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is to be approved as follows. Items number 3.1 through 3.7. This is the consent agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the consent agenda? Seeing none, at this point, I would take a recommendation. I will take a recommendation to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, motion. Proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Request to address the board. Do we have any this evening? Looks like none. Thank you. Information items. Item number 5.1, VSP Clinic, Dr. Summers Stevens.
Good evening. Okay. Okay, make sure it comes up here. Oh, I don't know. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, good evening or afternoon, everybody. I wanted to be able to share with everybody just briefly about the VSP Vision Clinic that we had here in Grand Island on October 24th and 25th. So the VSP Remote Vision Clinic, the goal of that clinic is to improve vision and learning outcomes for students in partnership with the group that is the Nebraska Foundation for Children's Vision. The VSP group is actually located at the origin, or the home base is actually out of Sacramento, but they also have a base out of Ohio, so they can travel across the country doing this work. And then we had 5 local providers. One was actually out of Omaha, but 5 local vision providers that volunteered their time and gave of themselves during the two-day clinic, which was amazing. And so we really were super grateful for that. Chris Vrooman, who is our lead nurse for the district, and her team worked through the vision screenings this fall in all of our schools and notified families of student needs for vision, and then began work of recruiting students who would qualify. Now this fall, we always do vision screenings with all of our students, and we have one vision screener. It's a little handheld thing, and they look in it, kind of like a viewfinder, if you remember those as a kid. Not probably quite as fun, but it broke early on in our fall semester, and then we were in the process of getting a replacement, and so fortunately we did go ahead and get a second one also and got that one fixed. So now we have 2, so hopefully that will expedite things. But we did run out of some time to get everyone screened, but we used also last year's data and referral needs. And we have a number of students. For example, at Walnut Middle School, we have 125 students at that one middle school who needed referred for vision screenings. So, and as you'll see in a few minutes, we didn't even see that many at the clinic. So just knowing that one middle school far surpasses the needs that we have of what we actually were able to see, and we saw a lot of kids. We just have a lot of need in our community for kids being able to see. Okay, the district social workers then and counselors supported families additionally in completing the registration paperwork along with the school health staff and their teachers. The district utilized the Islander Annex for the sessions that were held then on October 24th and 25th. We created an exam schedule, a transportation schedule, and we used our district cars, a van and some Suburbans, and the social workers and school counselors drove kids. And then we scheduled lunch for the volunteers and VSP staff so that they could stay working. The district staff coordinated and moved vehicles over the course of a couple days so that we could make it as easy as possible for the social workers and counselors to literally just go out their door at their school with children, get in their vans or cars, bring them to the clinic, go back to their school, go back inside. Some of them had to make multiple trips, but then we went and shuttled things around. So they just didn't have a lot of burden in that front. We wanted to make it as easy as possible. And then we also, afterwards, we completed some plus deltas on feedback that we could use if in the fact we would ever get this opportunity again. This is a grant that is with the Nebraska Foundation for Children's Vision that they have, and we were selected as part of that work last spring, and we've been working on it since last spring to bring it to Grand Island. And then the district, we will be providing that a particular organization with some non-identifiable assessment data, pre-exam and post-exam. And what they're looking for is did children's learning improve because they can see better? And so we have some other thoughts too on what might improve for kids. But we just wanted to let you know that the folks from Nebraska Foundation for Children's Vision said they actually had a really hard time getting a lot of people to commit to participating for lots of reasons around transportation and other things. We're going to share some ideas with them of how we did the work so that they could in the future potentially bring it to other communities. They served 5 days in Nebraska with this VSP work, and they were at York, they were at Hastings, and they were at Shelton. And then 2 days here in Grand Island with Grand Island Public Schools. The day itself, I just wanted to share that with you. Kids, as soon as they got there, they registered, they pre-filled out the paperwork, so we actually did not have to have their parents with them because the parents pre-filled out the paperwork. But the staff would bring the students, and then they had their pre-test. Everyone that has glasses in here, or if you've been to an eye doctor, you've maybe had the puff in your eye. And so that was not the highlight station for the children because it seems scary. One child even asked, am I going to have surgery? So he was a little nervous on his ride over, but he survived it, and the day was pretty good. And then they had the full eye exam there. They actually set up the mobile eye clinic, which is the van that you see there. Some of you were able to be able to see this, but the van itself has the station where they actually make the glasses in one part of the back end, and then the other part has an eye exam station in the far back of the mobile clinic. And they have 3 of these vehicles that they are able to take across the country. But we did not use the mobile clinic inside of the van. We just set them up inside of the annex. So it just worked phenomenally. And then the last part, which was my favorite part, because usually if you go to the eye doctor with your parent, they want to pick the glasses that you're getting on your face, and the kids got to pick their glasses themselves. With some input and whatnot from, the rest of us would give them, thumbs up or those look cool, or some of the other kids weighed in on their friends' glass selection. So it was phenomenal to let the kids be able to pick their glasses. And so we had 110 patients, all but 2 of those 110 people needed glasses. So 108 people needed glasses. And out of that, so this bus can make certain corrective lenses, right? Not ones that are really significant. I'm not an eye doctor, but if +6 means anything to you or something like that, like if it's worse than that, or they have to send them away to a lab. So 53 pairs of glasses were made at the clinic and distributed back to the students either that day or the next day. And then the rest of the glasses that were needed to be made were sent out, and they came back within the 2-3 week time frame. So it was significant. So if you see the number of glasses there, more than half of the students, their vision was worse than what we could make in the mobile clinic. So that's probably, take that times again, however many kids have not yet been to the eye doctor. So this is why it's critical. Extremely favorable response all around from specifically the VSP folks. They loved us. They thought our clinic was one of the best they've had. And I think the providers found that our experience was great. We got great feedback from the social workers and counselors. I got great feedback to use again to improve it should we be selected again. And VSP, of course, doesn't, we don't know right now, but hopefully if the Nebraska Vision folks are able to continue to support this project, VSP will put in the word that they want to come back, especially come back to Grand Island. We take them for all 5 days if we could. So I just wanted to share with you, it was a great program, and certainly there will be members of the board potentially, or Mr. Fisher, if you wanted to share anything. It was a extremely rewarding day to watch kids leave and just know that they had something that they desperately needed, an opportunity to receive, and those glasses are free to them. The downside is there is not warranty per se. They have a way to work with the manufacturer to get replacements, but we have all of their prescriptions, so we can work, now with Lions or some other folks if we need to have some replacements, if that comes along. So just wanted to share that great experience.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Stevens? Mr. Fisher?
I would just add that I had the opportunity to be there, really a neat experience. Got to tour the truck and everything. That was really neat. But I think one of the really great things about it is that, although this group came in from their nationwide group, the people that did the actual eye exams are our local eye doctors, and they donated their time to do that. And certainly we appreciate that kind of support from our community. And so I think that was a big part of what made it such a successful day. So thank you to those
Can't
people.
do it without them.
Ms. Albers?
So the research that you're going to share with VSP, maybe that's something that could be shared in L4L also, if Tony doesn't mind me volunteering that. I think that sounds very interesting to see if, and I think I was kind of giggling a little bit because you had 110 kids. Getting the paperwork filled out by the parents was probably one of the most daunting things that you had to complete, wasn't it?
I would say that the folks that were helping would agree with that statement.
I
And they had like a month or so that we were, working on it. And I would tell you, on the first day, we had 50 students scheduled. On the day of the exam, we ended up with 62 students and 61 students and a staff member. Because that's, again, we were like, oh, you are getting down here and you will get this done, and I am going to drive to your house and you will get this paper filled out. So, it was down to the wire, and people realizing what kind of opportunity it was and can I still get in?
Well, congratulations on that portion as well. And this is a super neat program, and I hope we can have them back annually. What about high schoolers? There was no high schoolers
There were high
in that?
schoolers.
Were there
yep.
high schoolers?
I'd have to look at the number for sure. I think there were probably at least 6
Okay.
high schoolers.
All right, thank you.
We had students from every school.
Mr. Hawley?
So I had the opportunity to come down and see the VSP clinic, and first things first, I'd like to give a shout out to VSP. So in talking with their staff, this is the way they give back to the communities across the United States. They don't fundraise any of this, they actually pay for it out of pocket. And I believe he said this year they'll do 75 different events across the United States. That's a lot of glasses for a lot of kids. And some of the people that were here for VSP were actually volunteers too. They don't get paid. Their travel is paid and whatnot, but they were here on their own accord to do this type of work. I found it fascinating that the lady who drives the truck was also the lady who was grinding the lenses down. She's a jack of all trades. It was pretty slick. But what a rewarding experience to be a part of. I remember being like 18 and I couldn't see. And I got my first pair of glasses. I'm like, oh, trees have leaves. It's kind of interesting. I was there when the younger kids were there, and watching them walk out and the smiles on their faces, it was priceless. And then another shout out to our staff too. So I know you gave us a list of all of the things that went into this. There was so much more than that, right? I mean, we had district employees going out and buying car seats.
Oh, yeah, we did that. We did buy
Because
car
we had
seats.
kids that have car seats and we didn't have enough. We had special needs students who needed different transportation. That was aligned. We had classes down there over lunch who missed their lunch hours, so we had to provide a lunch for those kids, which I think upset some other kids. Just a totally cool experience to be a part of. If they come back to Grand Island, I would encourage everybody to stop down. It was really rewarding to see. Thank you for doing the work to get VSP here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Amanda Wilson.
Can you just let us know the local places that donated their time?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, subject item number 5.2, budget calendar, Mr. Virgil Harden.
Well, good afternoon, and almost as exciting as hundreds of pairs of free glasses for our kids is the budget calendar, right? Whoop, whoop. No, okay. Well, as you know, our budget is well over $250 million. We'll spend, of course, less than that, but as part of an effort to be transparent and to communicate to ourselves internally within GIPS and externally, past practice was to provide a budget calendar. So it's the calendar that we'll follow this year to set the budget for next year, to just be as clear as possible. And kind of a minor change is just did some color coding. So for example, anything that involves directly the Board of Education, if you open up the attachment, you'll see is in green. And so it tracks things, but kind of that we take for granted, things like every Facility and Finance Committee meeting, we make decisions about spending, about what's coming, what we need to have in place for next year. You make those same kind of decisions every time you have a board meeting with adoption of curriculum or facility projects, that kind of thing. So this just outlines as many things that impact the budget, both internally and externally to Grand Island Public Schools, and we just follow that and track it. And it's really a document I mainly use and my team, to make sure that we're communicating to building principals, to directors, so they know when to expect their budget, when they're due back, those type of things. So here to be just presented to you this evening. The intent then is next month, bring it back just for you to accept and put on file. We don't ask you to approve it because it's a working, living, breathing document that changes as external environments happen. For example, last year, we wouldn't have had anything about a special session in the summer on the calendar, but that could have impacted Grand Island Public Schools quite a bit. So that's an example of something we'd capture and just document as it happens. So with that, I would conclude my comments.
Any questions for Mr. Harden? All right, thank you very much. Five point 3.1, board member vacancies, Mr. Matt Fisher.
All right, in the same vein as the excitement about eyewear and budget calendars is the excitement around policies. So, 2311 board member vacancies. This actually was a policy that we had the opportunity to use and review and work our way through recently. And so as we did that, there were some things that we came across that we thought maybe we should adjust a little bit, because as we actually put this policy into place, there were some hurdles that we ran into with the way the policy was written. So actually the first part of the policy is there aren't any proposed changes there. The proposed changes actually occur when you get down to the procedures down below here. And this first one here, where it indicates a fillable online form. It talked about the online form, but we also made available a written document. So basically, we just wanted to say a fillable form will be made available, and this may be an online form or it may be in written form, and can be delivered in person or mailed. And so again, just a slight change there. When we talked about the interview process, just a couple of things dealing with this. It specified that each board member was going to ask a question, and then there were some other pieces that went into this. The proposed change, if you look at number 2 there, selected qualified applicants, not just each applicant, because potentially you could get to a situation where some applicant was not qualified and would be disqualified because of that. So rather than saying that each applicant, we felt like it was better to say that each qualified applicant would be notified of their time for an interview, and then interview questions in number 3 will be asked in the same manner for each applicant to ensure consistency in the interview process. Again, not roping ourselves into saying that there would be X number of questions, that any particular board member would ask a particular number of questions. So really just leaving it more open-ended so that at the time, whatever board was dealing with this could decide on the number of questions that they would be asking. And then that section, as far as dealing with the questions, we felt like everything in that section probably could be eliminated with the change that was made in the interview process up above. Then nominations and elections, again, that first part there, as far as prior to the interview, there it says there, the Board of Ed members will have a workshop to discuss the questions, rubrics, emphasize that rubrics are shared with anyone else. So again, having that workshop in the limited time frame that you're actually working with in replacing a board member, I think is problematic. And our governance committee is set up to deal with these kind of situations. So I think rather than, again, saying that the board is going to have that workshop, to leave that open-ended. The board certainly could have a workshop if that's the way the board at that time felt like they wanted to do it. But the way the policy reads now, it would dictate that you had a workshop. So again, I think that's problematic, and so probably in the best interest to get rid of that. Then in terms of the process, when we get down to number 7 here in red, we had a lot of debate back and forth about this as far as a rubric. When we did it this time, we did set up a rubric. As the committee discussed this, the policy committee, ultimately they settled on the idea of probably striking this rubric piece, with the idea that probably the best method would be to have discussion and vote. And then if there was a tie, to have additional discussion and vote. And then if there was a tie a third time, to have an additional discussion and vote. Again, with the idea that if 2 candidates are truly that closely qualified, that at some point in time, probably some member of the board is going to change their vote. And so that's where the policy committee came in around that. And so certainly we're in a first reading of this, so I think if there's other thoughts around that, this would be a good opportunity to have a little bit of discussion around that, and then we can decide where we want to go with that as we move forward to adoption of this. Then the final piece that was on there was just simply that the president would call. Well, in this case, our candidates were here, so it was not a call, it was a contact. So again, just thought a little bit of wording change there. So questions around that, thoughts?
Seeing none?
Okay, very good. And again, if between now and the next time we meet with the committee if there are ideas that we feel like we need shared. Don't hesitate to reach out and share those. So, okay, then moving on to the next one. Dealing with administrator evaluations. This was a policy that, again, is just up for review, and there are no proposed changes to this. So, any questions around this one?
Seeing none.
Okay. Then, as far as physical management goals, here there are a couple of minor changes that we're looking at here. If you remember back a few meetings, we decided that Grand Island Public Schools is the actual name, not the Grand Island Public Schools. So every so often we get to cross out a the, and there's one of those there. And then down in number 1 there, it talks about budgets and expenditures to achieve the greatest. We thought maybe most beneficial might be better wording than greatest. And then down below there, in number 4, talks about establishing a maximum efficiency procedures. We just felt like establishing efficient procedures for accounting and reporting. And then business was listed, that lists accounting, reporting, purchasing, and delivery, which we felt like probably was business. And so probably not a need to name business in there as well. And then finally in number 5, to take into consideration all procedures in operation and planning was what was there before. And again, we felt like maybe just to take into consideration all procedures, which will lead to conservation of resources. So really just wording changes is all that amounts to. Any questions on anything there? All right. Bonded employees and officers. This is again one that we really just had a review of. Nothing changed there. All right. Annual operating budget. Again, this was one that there were no changes to. It was just simply a review. No questions? We'll jump to the next one then. This is one that we have spent some time with previously. If you'll recall, during the summer months, we worked through a number of different social media pieces, and ultimately we felt like there was still some work to be done, in particular with our elementary buildings, to make sure that we had an understanding of what different social media platforms were being used, and I think we're still working to pare those down, but we did feel like we got to a point where we were ready to put this policy up for consideration. And really the policy is a policy that's been here, and we're really only proposing the change of the one line there, which simply would be an addition of that line where it says electronic communication between staff and students may only take place through school, email, and district approved communication platforms. So again, rather than saying it's wide open, you can use anything, we're trying to rein that in where we're going to have those communications take place only on district approved communication platforms, which ultimately we're hoping to get to pretty much a single platform. I wouldn't say we're there yet, but we're working towards that. And again, I think the policy right now is okay because we are aware, and I guess have given temporary approval for those platforms that are in place. Questions on that?
Seeing none.
Now we get to go to action items and have more policy.
Action and subject number 6.14419, General Fund Cash Reserve.
All right. This is a fun policy because it's brand new. So it's all red. If you'll recall, Mr. Harden had shared that when we did our last ratings call for the QC pop bonding that we did, one of the questions that was asked was, did we have a policy on cash reserves? And we did not. We had a practice, but we did not have a policy per se. And so this policy basically is just a reflection of the practices that we've used for many, many years, and is just put into a policy so that the next time we have a rating call and that question is asked, we can say yes. Questions around this?
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve policy 4419, general fund cash reserve as presented.
Second by Mr. Garcia Mendez. Discussion? You may proceed to vote. Motion passes.
Okay, 8350, permission to leave school. There was no proposed changes, so this would simply be an adoption of the review.
Any questions? All right, I would entertain a motion at this time to approve policy 8350.
I make a motion to approve policy 8350, permission to leave school as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 8360, boundaries and boundary changes. This has one of those all-important "the" changes in it. There was a "the" that existed here, so the only change in this would be to eliminate the before Grand Island Public Schools.
Any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Hawley.
I make a motion to approve policy 8360, boundaries and boundary changes as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, we proceed to vote. Motion passes.
Okay, 8516, accommodating students with special dietary needs. There are several changes in this one. At the beginning there are a couple of those "thes" that we're going to eliminate. And then as we get down here a little bit further, it talks about an emergency care plan, and the actual language that's used today is an emergency action plan. So we would propose changing that wording. And then there are a number of places where physician, we are suggesting be changed with healthcare provider, because in many cases it's not an actual physician that is providing that information. And then if you look there on patient responsibilities, we've added a number 5 there, where part of that responsibility would be to complete and return the designated form for special dietary needs. Again, we've got a healthcare provider replacement in there, and then several more healthcare providers down in the latter section of this policy. So, questions on that?
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve policy 8516, accommodating students with special dietary needs as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion. Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Item number 7, reports. Are you gonna give Lindsay?
do it.
You're gonna do it, okay, all right. Grand Island Public Schools Foundation Report, Mr. Fisher.
All right. So I get to do the foundation report because I got to attend the foundation meeting. So Lindsay had asked me to fill in for, so I will present the report. In the report, it's noted that the Foundation Board approved 14 classroom grants totaling $12,091. They surprised the winning teachers on October 29th and 30th. And these grants will impact 6,354 students based on where they were going. The GIPS Foundation will be offering a scholarship fair for our students and parents at the Gish Building on November 20th. There will be presentations on the GI Public Schools Foundation scholarship applications, presentations on the FAFSA forms, booths for students and parents to visit. Numerous college partners have agreed to be there as well as Education Quest, and the Gish Academy principals and counselors will also be on hand. So that should be a good night for students to get some good information about the scholarship possibilities that are out there. Foundation's College Scholarship online application will open on December 1st and is accessible on the website gipsfoundation.org. This year they're going to be offering a record $671,823 in 205 different scholarships. So congratulations to the foundation on setting that new record. The Foundation Board will have the following business before them at their November meeting. Their audit for fiscal year 24, scholarship presentation preparations, and then new member nominations were things that were discussed. So I also had a chance to give them an update on what was going on with the school. So overall, Foundation seems to be moving along in a good direction.
Any questions for Mr. Fisher? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7.2, Student Representative Report, Mr. Owen Williams.
All right, I'll start off with fall activities. So the Gish volleyball team had an impressive showing at state volleyball last week, making it to the semifinals. This year marked back-to-back seasons making it to the state tournament, and the team earned their first state win since 2007, finishing with a record of 27-10. Gish put on its musical The Little Mermaid at the beginning of this month. The performers kept their composure through some slight technical difficulties on Friday with their mics, but all 3 days they put on a performance to be proud of. 17 Islanders earned all-state musician honors for choir, band, jazz band, and orchestra. They will practice with other top performers across the state and perform later this month. Unified Bowling season recently started, and they were able to win their first home tournament, so they're looking for a good year this year. And then Islander powerlifting is in its 4th year. So my freshman year, they started out with just 5 participants, and this year they're at over 90. And they've really done a great job at creating college opportunities for a lot of kids. There's currently 5 former Islanders that are powerlifting at Concordia, which is helping pay for their college. And there's a couple kids on the team right now looking at a similar path. Now some events around GIPS. Kinnickram Elementary has started the Strengthening Families program. The program provides a space for parents to collaborate about parenting styles and techniques. It also provides training lessons for parents that are proven to improve parenting skills and family relationships, and in turn improving their children's social skills and school performance. Students in the Superintendent Student Advisory Council are getting involved with branding of Gish. The group has formed a PR committee that is working closely with Mitch Roush to create a student-led social media platform. The goal is to create a fun and informative platform that spotlights students and shows the good of Grand Island Senior High. The Grand Island Fire Department was busy traveling to elementary schools around GIPS. 3rd grade students submitted fire escape plans on what they learned from the firefighters. A student from each school was then selected to ride on the fire truck to school with their fellow classmates cheering them on. One of these students was actually my little brother for Big Brothers Big Sisters, so I got to talk to him about it, and he was excited that the firefighters liked the plan that he made, and he had a blast being able to ride in the fire truck. And then Gear Up's monthly senior presentation this month prepared students for the FAFSA, which was opening December 1st. And with the foundation, they're hosting the scholarship fair that's open to all seniors on the 20th. And then for my staff shout out, this month I wanted to shout out someone who's both an excellent teacher and an excellent member of the Grand Island community, and that someone is Mrs. Schultz. Mrs. Schultz has been a great teacher and resource to students, especially in her AP World History and AP American Government classes. For many kids, AP World is taken as a sophomore and is their first experience in an advanced placement class. Her ability to meet students where they are and push them to become the best student they can has set many students up for success in both her classroom and future advanced classes. I personally have had Mrs. Schultz in AP Government, and it being an election year has sparked questions into how elections and campaign works. Her knowledge in class when answering questions helps simplify the political process for many kids who often only see the chaos of campaign warfare. Mrs. Schultz is also the sponsor for GISH's National Honor Society. Students volunteer 20 hours over the course of a year, and they are also helping run tomorrow's blood drive. They currently have 134 volunteers, many of which are first-time donors. And by the end of the year, each student will have created their own service project, teaching them how to manage a nonprofit event. Mrs. Schultz's involvement in Project Hunger Board helps students find these volunteer opportunities, and in turn, these students help make nonprofit events possible across our community. So join me in saying thank you to Mrs. Schultz for her commitment to our students, our school, and our community.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Does anybody have any questions for Owen? Okay. On to item 7.3, Superintendent Report, Mr. Matt Fisher.
All right, I'll pick up on a couple of the items that Owen shared. I had the chance to be at the musical on Friday when they had a few technical difficulties. Actually, I think it was just the mic in the very beginning of the program, and they handled it like professionals and went on, and it was really an outstanding show. Very well cast, and the kids did a great job with it. Had lots of students involved from, I think, clear down to the 4th grade. We had some younger students involved in this program as well, so it was really good. So that was good. Had the chance to watch the volleyball team down in Lincoln. That was exciting. You know, probably had a chance to maybe go ahead and win that second round. Certainly the first set, and unfortunately didn't come out the way we would have liked it to, but it was exciting to see them there. So that was really good as well. Also got to see one of the students get the ride in the fire truck, get to go up in the ladder, clear up the, I talked to one of the firemen. They said it'll go up to like 90 feet in the air. So it was up there, and so that was fun. Just a couple other things. We talked about the vision. Also earlier this week, I had a chance to. I was over at Lincoln, and they that day had a group of, people working on dental assistance for our students. They were actually evaluating them and giving them fluoride treatments, and so again, just another group in our community stepping up to help fill some of the needs that exist with our students. So certainly appreciate that. Just wanted to remind everyone that we do have the State School Board Conference going on next week, and I think several of the board members are planning on attending. We also have several of our district leadership team that will be there. One of the things you for sure want to make sure you take in is that on Thursday I am presenting. Actually, Carl Dietz, the guy that I worked with in the banking world, and I along with Bryce Wilson, the true expert of finance in the state, are going to do a finance workshop on Thursday morning. So those of you that are in attendance, you won't want to miss that. Especially you, Virgil. You probably learned something. Then the other thing that I just wanted to mention, Owen's doing staff shout-outs, and we do staff shout-outs on a weekly basis through our communications department, and one of the really fun things that I get to do is go deliver their staff shout-out swag bag. So I've been delivering a few of those this week, and that's always really exciting. And it's neat that we are recognizing not just teaching staff, administrators, but we're, this week I got to deliver to paraeducators and custodians and people in our nutrition service as well. So I think that's one of those really neat things that we do. Beyond that, I just wanted to mention just a little bit of the information that I got when I attended the CUBE conference here a couple weeks ago. Some of the things that I found really applicable to us. There was a session that I attended that dealt with the school as a community hub that was really very informative about how another school district was really embracing that role as a community hub. And obviously the things that we've talked about here tonight illustrate our work as a community hub. So that was really good. Had a good session on closing the achievement gap with some of our various demographic groups, and so that was some good information there. Probably the one that I felt like I got maybe the best information dealt with alternative paths to graduation. Just really kind of a thought-provoking, are there some other ways that we ought to be thinking about how we get our students to demonstrate that they are, at a point where they should be graduating from high school, rather than just, how many credits do we have? And so there's some different school districts looking at some different things there. There's actually a 5-state study that's going on around those pieces. So those were some of the things that I picked up. I also wanted to give those other people that attended that conference a chance to share a little bit about, some of the different things that maybe they picked up in that area. So I guess I would share my time with those people at this point in time.
Mr. Garcia Mendez.
Thank you. I think so CUBE was just a extraordinary kind of conference that I've attended, to be around public school advocates from all around the nation was just something that was incredibly riveting for me. It's just also just like the opportunity to grow professionally, right, as like public servants, was just a unique opportunity. I also attended a couple sessions. One of them that was like super interesting for me was just talking about like newcomers, and I think it was from like Denver Public Schools, and they were talking about how when Texas was like shipping all of these families from the border all the way up to Denver, and the whole community just really wrapped around these families with services and just how to deal with like certain political situations was super interesting. But they have like newcomer orientation and stuff like that, and so I had the opportunity to ask them some questions. Also, the unique thing was that there was Lincoln Public School people and Omaha Public School participants, board members from those school districts, and I think that was a unique opportunity for us to even network with them and then have dinner with them, so that was really awesome. Another thing that was really interesting to hear about was just how well-governed school districts operate, and one of the things that I found like really interesting was that the bond rating was directly related to how long board members were serving in the board. It was something like 6 to 8 years or something like that for a school district to have a really good bond rating, for board members to be on the board for like that long. So that was like super interesting to hear and look at. But it was just really awesome to get to hear from other school districts with the same demographics as ours, They for sure, some of them had less than 10,000 students. Like, I think there was a school district that had 5,000 students. There's a school district that had, I can't remember what Clark County, Nevada had, but it was a couple thousand. 302,000. Yeah. And we were like, what? It was crazy, and like 40,000 staff. And I was like, that's insane. But a lot of the similarities was like in terms like percentage wise of like newcomer students and English language learners, socioeconomic status, right? Like poverty rate. There were school districts, everything from like half of the school population was in poverty, right? And food free and reduced lunch. So it was just a really unique opportunity to grow professionally, take time off from work too, and then kind of just get networked with people basically. But I don't know if y'all want to add anything.
Ms. Albers.
So this is my first time going to Cube, and I think it's probably the most impactful school board conference I've ever been to. It's always good for a white person to be a minority in the room and kind of get that sensation that a lot of our black and brown friends have all the time. And the passion that these school board members had, they wore it on their sleeves. I mean, they professed it, they confessed it. It was, sometimes it almost felt like you were in church because they were just so passionate about their students and about their schools. I get a little verklempt even talking about it because it was really kind of a life-altering couple of days for me, and really reinvigorated me with the passion for wanting to do right by our students. And that was one of the things that one of the speakers said is, we have to be worthy of our students. We have to make sure that we work hard enough that we are worthy of them and worthy to serve them. And I went to a session called Student Voices, and it talked about some of the ways that you can get students more involved with not just like a superintendent student advisor group, but then offshoot groups within that group. And I'm not going to do a spoiler alert right now because I haven't talked to Mr. Fisher about it. But anyway, I think there's some really good opportunities out there for our students, in addition to the great opportunities we already have for them. But I did talk to one gal, and the poverty rate at her school was 99%. I mean, everybody in her district was poor, and they don't care about their students any less. Maybe they care about them more. And just being able to think outside the box on what some of the services are that kids need. But it was really. It was just really a great couple of days, and I would encourage everyone on this board to attend this conference because it will really open your eyes and not even change your trajectory so much, but just really help you stay passionate about the work that we need to do.
Carlos?
So I would ditto everything they've said. I've had the chance to attend CUBE before, and also the National. I think all of those opportunities for growth as board members, I mean, you guys know that it's important, right? If there was a time they asked me, what would you tell me about CUBE? My answer was always the same. It's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's just different. There's just a different feel to CUBE. I think is really relevant for us. I've been here since 1994. Our demographics have changed, right? And we used to have that conversation 20 years ago. Our demographics are changing, but things have just shifted. And it's not a bad thing, but many times we shy away from those conversations of poverty, of culture, especially after an election, the immigration dynamics. And there's a lot that can be a very loaded conversation and a very uncomfortable conversation. But going to CUBE, I mean, we've said it so many times that Grand Island is too small to be compared to Lincoln and Omaha, but then too big to be compared to the other school districts. And Grand Island mimics a lot of the urban districts around the country. So as Lisa was saying, I don't think this changes the path that you're on. It just kind of reinforces that passion that why are we here as board members? A lot of the sessions I went to was on health, mental health, and how do you provide that support for teachers. We were in a session where there's an AI app that teachers can have access to, just kind of bounce ideas off and decompress and things like that. Just kind of looking at how do you provide more tools for staff and teachers. The other sessions, a lot about board governance, and just seeing how some board members are in constant contact with their governor and with their senators and having conversations about what's going to happen. How do you fund this? How do you become a really strong board and advocate for students? So again, I think it's just it was a good reminder for me to just catch up with not only Mr. Fisher and board members, but also see what's happening around the state and how that could affect us, and just get a glimpse of what's coming up ahead. So again, it's just an opportunity to have personally those aha moments of, oh, could we do this? Are we doing this? And definitely proud to be from our district, because there was times that I went to sessions that had, an impressive title, impressive content, and would be there and I'm like, oh, we're doing this. We're past this. We've done this already. So it was good that just to feel that we've been in a good path as a school district. So thank you.
Josh.
To echo some of your comments, Carlos, when we had a chance to sit down with Mr. Fisher and have a conversation, and I asked Matt, I said, what are you taking away from this conference? And I believe your response was, we're already doing a lot of this, which is fantastic, right? I mean, it's good to reinforce that Grand Island Public Schools is already doing a lot of things that they're presenting on. Doesn't mean we're perfect and we don't have work to do, but we're ahead of the curve. It was interesting to me at the CUBE conference to see other districts that mimicked our district. I think the one that we saw was Ogden Public Schools in Ogden, Utah. And when you look at the amount of schools they have, you look at their student population, their diversity, their free and reduced lunch, everything. I mean, we're talking about almost identical to Grand Island Public Schools. So to say that we're not urban, I think would be a myth. I think that we check a lot of the boxes for an urban school district, whether that's high mobility, lower socioeconomic status, diversity, all of these different things. We check the boxes. And conferences like this, I went to plenty of sessions too, and I think we learned things from sessions, but we learned a lot too from networking, right? I got to meet our colleagues from Southern California, from New Jersey, from Pennsylvania, all over the United States. And I think some of the best learning comes from these conversations. And I was talking with some folks from New Jersey, actually, pretty big district. And they had asked, I think in the session we were in, they said, what are your standing committees? And we discussed what ours were, and they discussed what theirs was. And one that I thought that was interesting that maybe we could wrap our minds around at some point is a standing committee for parent engagement in student life. And we've talked about this many a times, where we have plenty of students and families in our district that don't know of all the services that number one, the community provides, but that the schools can provide as well. And just some of the things that they listed on this committee, I was really picking their brain. They host different events, and they give out information on HIB, so harassment, intimidation, bullying. I had never heard of that. A lot of acronyms. They give out information on attendance, student resources, McKinney-Vento information. They host parent engagement tours in town halls. They have a Title I conference once a year. So kind of like the conference we went to, just on a way smaller scale, where they're bringing parents in, bringing community members in, talking through the different challenges that maybe we have in the school district, in the community, and giving out information. So don't know if we'll ever do anything with that or not, but it was just an idea that I liked. And I feel like, again, the sessions are great. We learned a lot of great things, but being able to make contacts, especially with our friends in Lincoln and Omaha, and be able to talk to them about things, as well as other districts across the U.S., and learn from what they're doing, and then share what we're doing, and they can learn from us, is probably some of the most impactful times I had in those couple of days.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 8, executive session for the purpose of negotiations and superintendent's evaluation, because it is in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session. At this time, I would entertain a motion to excuse ourselves to executive session.
I make a motion for the board to convene the executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, may proceed to a vote. Motion passes. The time is now 5:29 PM. We will convene to executive session. Please leave your Okay. I would entertain a motion to enter back into regular session.
I make a motion for the board to reconvene from executive session.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none. Vote. Motion passes. Okay, official time is now 6:19 PM. We are back in regular session. Item number 10 is approval of any action deemed necessary as a result of executive session. At this time, I would entertain any motions.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation as presented.
Second by Ms. Albers. Discussion? Seeing none, I proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Notification of upcoming meetings. Our next regular Board of Education meeting will be Thursday, December 12th, 2024 at 5:30 PM.